My artboard when I'm designing is crazy. If somebody saw, like, it just looks mental because there's just images everywhere. I've got sketches over here, sketches over there, and it's just a bit wild
Yeah.
to be honest. But it's all part of the creative process. It's not just about creating pretty sketches, which, like you said, is a very fun part of it. But it's actually, for me, it's the least fun part. I love doing the research. But when I was at uni, that was a step that I always used to try and skip. I used to hate doing research. I don't know why. AI should be used to support and help us to translate vision. It should be able to help us enhance what the design phase. It's not there to replace anybody. It shouldn't be there to remove the humans out of the process. It should literally just be there to support and enhance the design process and help to translate and communicate vision 100%.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fashion Forward, a podcast where we explore how technology is transforming the fashion industry. I'm Christabel Achu, your host, founder, and CEO of Model Digital Solutions, a fashion consultancy helping fashion brands adopt digital tools to reduce production time, save costs, and build sustainably. Each episode, we dive into how fashion brands can strategically adopt and integrate digital technology into their creative and production processes to design smarter, produce faster, and grow sustainably. So if you're a fashion brand owner, fashion tech founder, designer, or simply a fashion enthusiast, curious about the future of fashion and technology, Fashion Forward is for you. Today's episode marks the beginning of a brand new series titled Digital Technology in Concept Development. Yay or nay? This series dives deep into one of the most exciting yet critical stages of the fashion design and product development process. To help us unpack this from a traditional and human perspective before we dive deeper into the digital transformation side, I will be joined by Lauren Robson, a creative director and brand strategist who has helped over 40 fashion brands, including Reason, MNML, and Another Version, build strong product visions and design roadmaps. Together, we'll explore what this phase really entails, the challenges brands face when bringing ideas to life, and how technology and even AI can become a powerful creative partner rather than a threat. So if you've ever wondered where creativity ends and technology begins in fashion design, this episode is one you do not want to miss. So let's get into it.
How are you?
I'm so happy. I'm so excited that finally, that's the word, finally, we get to do this. Finally.
I know it's been a long time
Yes.
coming, but we've got here. We're here.
Yeah, happy new year and welcome to Fashion Forward. You're my first guest, and I know that you're really paving the way for many other awesome things to come, right?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so I think we'll just go straight in. Yeah,
Yeah.
so first thing, can you tell us a bit about your journey into fashion and what drew you to design development?
Yeah, so I have honestly been designing clothes since I was a child. I used to get bags of fabrics and bags of ribbon from the local markets in town. My grandma used to buy me them. And I had my first sewing machine at the age of 7. And from what I know, I think on my dad's side of the family, all of the women, like when you look at the family tree, all like were like seamstresses and stuff. So I feel like it's literally in my blood to have been something to do with design or making clothes. And yeah, I loved sketching dresses and stuff. Like I used to have notepads and my little sewing machine, and I'd make clothes for kids in my street. And then I did textiles all the way through school, like secondary school. And then I went on to art college to do fashion design. And then I went to university and did fashion design. And then after university, I had a bit of a hard time getting into design, to be honest. So I was working in swimwear for a little while, like doing part-time, and then I started my own bag business, and I did all of these different things to kind of make my way to where I am now. But I decided to go freelance about 6 years ago now, and I've been freelance ever since. But I think the reason I've always loved design is it's always amazed me that something is always once an idea in your head, and then the final stage of it is it's like a physical thing in front of you, and it's always just amazed me. So I think that's what's always drawn me to it, definitely.
Yeah, really exciting. Wow, getting a machine at 7 years.
Yeah.
I
I
was
used
still
to.
playing.
I used to sew little. I remember. Obviously, I didn't know how to sew at 7. I was still like trying. I didn't properly know, but I used to make little boob tubes where you just stitch the sides and give them to all my friends in the street and stuff.
Exactly, especially little girls who grew up with Barbie dolls. I would rip apart
Yeah,
the seams or whatever clothes they wear, and just like sometimes I'll use my needle and thread, just try to make up something, right? Fashion has always been exciting, and it actually
yeah,
makes both of us
exactly.
really
I loved it. I have
exciting.
always.
You've worked with a variety of brands from activewear to luxury fashion,
Yeah.
and just now you also mentioned about delving into swimwear for a while. So, what common thread do you see across all these categories when it comes to design development?
To be honest, I would say most brands I've worked with, the process of it is always pretty much the same, really. Like every brand works differently, and that is something, especially as a freelancer, that I've had to adapt to. And it's also kind of led to me putting together my own systems to implicate with startup brands. But I would say the actual process is always the same, from like the research to the development, the product development, even through to the marketing. From kind of like an issue point, I've always found that honestly most of the brands that I work with have some kind of issue when it comes to like the fit of garments, and a lot of especially startup brands don't realise that you need like to bring a garment tech in to really perfect the fit, because obviously if you've got a bad fitting garment, you've got a bad product, because it's obviously one of the main things that people look for, like comfort and like, or a flattering fit. So that's definitely something that I've noticed. But yeah, I would say that the actual process itself is usually the same. Some brands work differently in terms of, which is where I've always actually struggled. I'm very much like a concept designer, and I create full collections, whereas some brands have different departments where you could just solely be working on tops, or you could be working on pants, or whatever it might be, and it's not really designed as a full collection. So that's sometimes a bit of a twist in the process, if you like. But yeah, I think generally that usually the process is roughly the same, give or take.
Yeah, yeah, actually. How would you describe the heart of this phase in your own words? Just use your own words, as simple and as brief as possible.
I'd probably say inspiration, and which obviously goes hand in hand with research, because I think with that, if you haven't really deep dived into like concepts, fabrics, trims, whatever it might be, then you don't have any direction. So before I even put pen to paper or start doing any sketches, I do so much research so that by the time it actually comes to me drawing and designing, I know exactly what I'm doing. Because without inspiration, you don't really have anything. Because the
Yeah.
more different like cultures, for example, or inspiration from old runways, like past trends, whatever it might be, current trends even, you never know what thought it's going to trigger to give you a different path to take. I would definitely say research, but obviously that inspiration and the research phase then helps you to build an emotion, which I'm very much, like I said previously, very much like concept driven designer, and all of my concepts I always try and make sure that they're strongly linked with an emotion. I do think that helps the product sell better when it comes to like your final marketing and everything. It's something that you can bring through your whole process. So if I was going to sum that up, I'd say inspiration and emotion are at the heart of my design process anyway, definitely.
So we can say the heart of concept development revolves around research and inspiration, right?
Yeah, and which is for me, it's just heavily linked to emotion, yeah.
Actually, yeah, very, 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 very true. What does the design development and concept translation phase typically involve in a traditional fashion workflow?
So this is how it's always kind of flowed for me. So obviously come back to research and inspiration. So I'd always
Yeah.
heavily dive into actually before the research stage, I would always fully understand the brief, fully get to know the brand, what the brand's vision is, what the brand's identity is, who that brand is speaking to, and really make sure that I have a solid understanding of the brand's heart, if you like. And then once I've understood that and understood the brief at hand, if I'm involved in the concept development phase, which I often am, and then I would go away, dive into concepts and what kind of route we want to take, which would then lead me into looking at silhouettes, fabrics, trims, all of the key details, and making sure that it's all things that we can actually translate into a garment, because I think that translating your concept into an actual product is actually be quite difficult. That's why your research is so important. And then once I usually present that, because obviously I'm talking from a freelance point of view, so I would present that to my client. I would show them all of my research and I would make sure that we are aligned on that vision. So presenting that to them first is obviously a really solid first step before I go away and even start sketching anything up, because then I know that we are both on the same page of everything. And
Exactly, yeah.
then once I know what they do like, what they don't like, we've aligned on everything, I'd then move to the sketching phase, bring through all of that design research. My artboard when I'm designing is crazy. If somebody saw, like, it just looks mental because there's just images everywhere. I've got sketches over here, sketches over there, and it's just a bit wild, to be honest. But it's all part of the creative process. So yeah, I bring together all that research into one space. I have all my screens set up so that I can cross-reference everything visually, and then get my first round of designs done. Colour, I usually bring in last. I usually get all my shapes and everything down, and then I'll kind of dive into colour, present that to the client, get any feedback, make any amends, and then I'd go on to making the tech packs. And as part of my research phase as well, in the presentation phase, actually not research phase, I'd usually put together boards and visuals of how that concept can be brought through into the marketing phase as well, not just the product, because I'm a big believer that the original concept should always be brought through into the marketing, because I think it makes for a really powerful product and campaign. So that's usually how the flow goes in the design phase.
Okay, so it's more of like first and foremost, very important research. I don't
Yeah.
believe we can begin anything, right, without research. So more of like understanding what the brand stands for, your target audience, and all of that. So all of those things have to be settled first. So
Yeah.
I
Make
think there's
sure we've
this
got a
common
solid
misconception of like sketch. Sketching is beautiful. I actually started off as an illustrator, so I know how exciting it can be. And there's
Yeah.
also this kind of delusion of fashion is all about beauty, glamour, beautiful sketches, just like what we were talking about. Just imagine a fashion student or fashion enthusiast who is actually dreaming of going into fashion school and then just walks in to see those kind of messy art pieces. That person is going to be really excited. Oh, this is what fashion is about. But actually, there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that went behind the scenes, right? Before we
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
got to the point of creative sketches and all of that. So you see,
Yeah.
research, right? Feedback, very important. So, because I think
Yeah.
that's one thing I had to learn when I was still working as an illustrator. Sometimes I can be so excited about the process. I just do some form of research and then just begin sketching. And I
Yeah.
actually had a lot of problems then because at the
I
end of
can
the
relate
day,
to that massively. Yeah.
exactly. At the end of the day, what I had, probably proposed with my own level of research might not be in perfect alignment with what the client would have wanted. So I actually went through a lot of problems. So we just have to like sometimes go back and forth. And that was
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
fault, not the client's
Yeah.
fault. So it's also very, very important to always get feedback. Get
Yeah.
feedback too. You might
Definitely.
not be perfect all the time. You could have made mistakes, or probably you are not just like hitting the perfect spot that the client would have wanted. So
Yeah.
research, feedback, and then we'll go into the most exciting and beautiful part that people can see, which is sketching and all of that. Sketching, whether
I,
messy or not.
I also think as well that there is almost an element of psychology to design, because when I mentioned obviously you have to really understand your customer, but I always think of it as like trying to get in the mind of the consumer, who is going to be the actual person that is buying this product, not just a group of people. Trying to put myself in the position of the person who is wearing it. So say for example, if it's like lounge comfortable wear, like where would this person be wearing it to, like what would make them feel good in it, like
Exactly.
there's really getting in the mind of it. It's not just about creating pretty sketches, which like you said is a very fun part of it, but it's actually, for me, it's the least fun part. I love doing the research, but when I was at uni, that was a step that I always used to try and skip. I used to hate doing research, I don't know why, and my lecturer would always say to me, like,
Too.
your designs are lacking. Yeah, your designs are lacking because you're just completely cutting out I used to design and then go back and put images in my sketchbook and like do it backwards, and it'd
God.
always show. Yeah.
That makes two of
So
us exactly right. We used to see the research as the boring aspect. I do not want to do this. I do not want to do this. And then you sketch, and then you
yeah.
have to go back to research. Oh my god, I completely
Yeah,
understand,
yeah.
and I can completely relate. Right before you can, once all of this is done, we can then proceed to whatever technical aspect of the designs would entail. And that will also be another
Yeah.
kind of another discussion for another day, because technical design, sometimes we get to the point where we have design developers having issues with technical developers because designs look so beautiful until it gets to the point of like actually making these pieces. That's another conversation for another day. But I just want us to move. I want us to move to the next question. So, in your experience, what are the key deliverables or outcomes of this phase before a collection moves forward? What are the deliverables?
Deliverables. So again, kind of coming back to that process on my end, as part of like packages that I put together and stuff, the actual final files would be, you'd have your research document, you'd have your initial designs file, your final amends file, your tech packs, which I usually collaborate with the garment tech on, so that we've got my side of the tech pack and then all of their sizing and everything, and then that goes on to a product developer or whoever it might be that's handling that side of things. So, but without the final tech pack and the sizing charts, you're not getting the final product. So it's always really important that they are very clear, very detailed. I always try and make my tech packs very visual, because obviously if it's getting sent to a factory, let's say in China, and it's obviously they need to translate everything, having that visual side of it is always really helpful as well. So yeah, I would say in that process, obviously every stage is important, but a clear tech pack is a very important deliverable in the whole phase.
Okay. So you are saying the tech pack is a major deliverable in this particular phase?
Well, definitely, yeah, because if without the tech pack, it can't be translated to the factory, who then can't start to make start sampling and make that final product. But every stage of it's important, but I do think that the tech pack, because obviously if it can't be translated by the factory, then you're not going to get the original idea to a physical product.
Actually, do you know, most times you just feel like, okay, design first and then probably technical details later or something like that. But what you're saying now, it's showing that creativity and technicality have to move hand in hand, even in this phase. So,
try it.
Yeah, a tech pack is also a means of translating the concepts. So it's not just like beautiful designs or illustrations with probably annotations and all of that. Because sometimes one might think that would be the key deliverable or outcome in this particular phase. But we can also see that whatever creativity there is that exists, there has to be some level of translation. And the tech pack serves as a more suitable means of communicating these designs or whatever concept there could be. Right. So
I always laugh because I've got quite a lot of garment techs who are friends and that I collaborate with quite a lot, and we always say, and product developers, and they always bring designers back down to earth. So we could come up with loads of crazy seam details and everything, and they're the ones that are like, this won't work when it comes to a physical body. I actually, when I was at university and after university, I was always really good at pattern cutting and sewing more than design. I kind of wanted to push and develop in design after uni. So I do have quite a solid understanding of like the actual construction of it. So when I'm designing, it's very much at the forefront of my mind. But for a lot of people, some people don't study that part of it. They'll focus mainly on like the concept side of things. So yeah, it sometimes is the role of a product developer or garment tech to bring the designer back down to earth and be like, that won't work.
Actually. Yeah. Actually, I completely agree with that.
Yeah. We live in
have to
La La
come
Land.
to reality. Yeah. Very true. Okay, so I think this next question we've kind of answered it, but I would want you to just reiterate it and just like really hit the nail on the head again. How do creative direction and brand identity come together here to guide design decisions?
I know I keep mentioning the research, everything, and understanding, having like a solid understanding of the brand, and which is what would guide my concept and direction of everything anyway. I think in terms of like translating it, everything has to visually align, because obviously you can have a concept in theory, but if it visually doesn't translate, which is how we translate things to a customer, that's how things can kind of get misaligned. So this is another thing that I speak about very often, and it's something that my studio really focuses on, is making sure that that original concept that is brought in at the design phase is brought through into the marketing, because obviously that original concept is based on the brand identity and it's led the whole collection. But then when you get to marketing phase, if that gets missed off or the original concept gets lost, and it's not visually translated and you miss all of the details and like the mood and the feeling and everything, then that's how things can become mismatched and get misaligned. So I would say visual direction plays a massive part in making sure that that creative direction and brand identity do marry up and communicate to the customer 100%.
Yeah, very true. Visuals at the end of the day. Fine. There has to be like that kind of mix for the customers to also like properly identify with the brand. I completely agree with you. And I really love the way you answered the question. What are some of the biggest challenges fashion brands face at this stage?
So I kind of mentioned it briefly earlier, but I think fit is a big one, which obviously comes a little bit later in the design process once you've done your tech packs and everything. Fit's something that is always an issue. I've never worked with brand and the fit not be an issue somewhere at some point in the design phase. But I would also say when it comes to your factories, that can be a real, like, set you back a lot, because if you don't know what factory you're working with, for example, let's say, for example, I'm working with a startup and they haven't found the factories yet. I could go away and design an amazing collection and I could pick all of the colourways and everything. And then when it comes to working with the factory, they might then say that you're limited on what colours you can use for MOQs, we can't dye the fabric to Pantones, it's got to be stock fabric, and then you have to realign all of the colours and the fabric choices to what is actually available. So I've found that can be quite an issue quite a lot of the time. Kind of bringing it back to the actual design process as well. This is something that I sometimes struggle with as a designer, is I like to really just use trends, like current trends, loosely. And I like to really kind of get creative and just try and push for fresh new ideas. And a lot of brands really want to follow trends, so I always try and guide them away from that. That's something that I've kind of noticed along the way, that brands kind of want to follow that commercial edge a bit too much. That's just from a personal point of view, though. Just to get that in there, just like get some new ideas, like, do you know what I mean? Like, just like little intricate details and just like be a bit different. But yeah, bring it back to the design process. That's just me going off on a tangent. But I'd definitely say like factory restrictions is a big one of what is actually achievable. And that's why I think communication is key in the beginning stages. If people do already have the factory, with me understanding what MOQs they're working to, what fabrics we have available, even starting to, this is quite a big thing that I push for, is trying to get fabric samples before I've even started designing, so that we can see, kind of get the ball rolling with picking fabrics, because fabric is such a big part of the design process.
Exactly.
You want to make sure that it's the right drape, it's the right stretch, for example. So honestly, my office is just filled with fabric samples. Sorry, I felt that was a bit of a mismatch answer, but it was all things that just kind of came to me as I was talking.
You've answered the question, and like I said before, I'm so happy to see that even as you're talking about developing creative concepts, we can still see the technicalities to it. I really hear that even as you speak about beautiful designs. Yeah, we also need to talk about fabric. We also need to talk about fit. We also need to talk about actual production, right? What factories out there that can actually bring these pieces to life? Talking about the biggest challenge in this phase, you already mentioned it, which has to do with fit, right? Is that really streamlined down to sizing?
Yeah, honestly, like, massively. I think a lot of clients don't even realise obviously I'm not a garment tech, but I work very closely with other freelancers, and I've got a great relationship with them because we've worked together across many clients. But I don't think people even realise what garment techs offer. It's not just sizing charts. They do like quality control. They understand so much about like the construction side of things as well. So a lot of this is a really big issue that I've found with startups in
Really,
particular.
really big issue,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So like with startups in particular, some people don't understand the fact that designer and garment tech, even though you have to understand each other's roles, like I understand garment tech to a point and vice versa, like the two different roles, and one role's a lot more technical than the other. People will often go to, or brands, startup brands in particular, will often go to a factory with a tech pack that doesn't have a sizing chart, and they'll ask the factory to just go off their own sizing chart, which is just a nightmare because things end up being inconsistent. It's never the same. It's honestly, it's such a big issue. So like the garment techs I work with, they always work with brands to create their own sizing charts, really understand and narrow down the size range that they want to hit. A lot of startup brands or brands that work to low MOQs are often limited on size anyway. So if, let's say for example, a brand is only ordering 100 pieces of a design, they might only be allowed to have 4 or 5 sizes across that anyway. So there's lots of like limitations and things that people wouldn't even realise. But yeah, the sizing thing, even communicating feedback on samples and stuff can also cause an issue with, you've got to make sure that that's done right, because if like everyone's speaking different languages and stuff. So yeah, the fit is always an issue.
Major issue.
I am so big on when a sample comes back from the factory, you should have your designer, your garment tech, and your product developer all in the same room looking at the design. I've worked with so many brands where the designer isn't part of that phase, even though they've had the original vision and they know what the fit should be like. So everyone should be, obviously, that's why it gets handed to the garment tech to make sure that that fit is nailed. And the product developer is there to make sure that every step of the process is done correctly. Like everyone is such a key part in the process. But when it comes to looking at that sample, all 3 people should be in one room looking at that product to make sure that everything is aligned from what the original vision was to looking at what's actually practical, doable, and making sure that the fit is nailed. So it's another thing. I have a lot of strong opinions on things like this. Get us all in the room together to make sure that sample's right.
Actually, you are very correct, very correct. And honestly, if we really want to start talking about this issue of sizing and fit, I don't think we'll be able to end this podcast. It's going to be a lengthy discourse. We are going to have to talk about, there are a lot of inconsistencies when it comes to sizing. So it's no wonder or surprise why we are having the issue of sizing as a major problem, even in the so-called design phase, right? That's also another part of this podcast that I know we're going to talk about some other time. There are also tech solutions that are really evolving to like solve this problem right now. And the only issue I have right now is making sure there's a widespread of these solutions. How do teams usually balance creative freedom, right, with commercial goals during development?
Okay, so again, this is where designers get brought back down to earth a lot. But it's also something, it's not like I laugh about that, but it's also something that as a designer you obviously have to be aware of. You can have all these creative ideas, but it has to translate commercially. And even just bringing it back to your concept phase, like making sure that that concept that you pick is aligned with the brand identity and can be translated well into a concept. Something that I as a designer do to kind of like tackle that is, I mean, sometimes I'll present something and then they will give the feedback to strip certain areas back or bring in like a more plainer piece to sit alongside a more like creative piece. But something I always try and do within my range plans is to have a mix of like core, commercial and directional products. Obviously it's brand dependent. Some brands are a bit more like stripped back anyway and things just are naturally a bit more commercial. Others want to push the boundaries and do a bit of customer testing even with like colour, because obviously colour can be like, people are just drawn to core colours like blacks, navies, brown, like, you know, all these classic colours. But yeah, I always suggest as part of a range plan we do a core collection or core products which can eventually over time be developed out to be a core range, which can be a good cash flow interjection. But as part of a singular collection, adding core products in there, so it could be like, I don't know, like t-shirts, like a classic pant or whatever. And then commercially driven pieces, so things that are like a little bit more trend-led. And then you've got your directional pieces, which are the pieces that kind of push the boundaries a little bit more, and they are your customer testing pieces. So that's how I've always found with my clients, we kind of balance everything so that we're still testing, we're still being creative, but it's still within that commercial selling bracket, and that it's also affordable when it gets to production as well. But yeah, I've worked with brands that'll happily be like, okay, we need to pull this back, we need to rein you in. So yeah, a balance is how I'd say that it's probably how a lot of brands work, unless you're working with like really commercial brands, like big brands who are very mainstream. They don't really tend to push the boundaries excessively anyway. They might have more creative pieces, but it won't be anything that's wildly difficult, do you know what I mean, to sell. And as well, the more creative pieces, a lot of brands tend to do a smaller run of. So if you, let's say you had a really unique technical jacket, they might only order like 100 pieces of it or like 50 pieces, and it's just, again, it's pushing that boundaries, it's getting people attracted to your brand, but you're not worrying about having loads of stock left there, so they'll run it, but just on that smaller number, as opposed to your core pieces, which they'd place like larger units on.
Okay, that's good. So, what are the common mistakes or misconceptions you've noticed designers or brand make when translating concept into actual designs?
Yeah, I think something that I've kind of noticed with quite a lot of brands is the concept can be quite literally translated rather than it being like quite subtle. Personally, I love doing like really intricate details, which kind of like subtly link back to your concepts. I think a lot of brands can like do it quite literally, you know, just as an example, but like really bold graphics or nothing that's kind of subtly translated. Trying to think of any other kind of, I wouldn't say any, I've not noticed anything major other than that, other than it being like quite a bold transition, as opposed to kind of getting creative with how you can actually translate it, if that makes sense.
We're trying to like transition more into tech now, and that's more of like looking ahead, because tech is really transforming the way fashion is being produced and also enhancing the product development cycle, right? I know there's still a lot of craze about AI, what it's doing or what it's not doing, or what it should do or what it should not do, what it can do and what it cannot do. There are a lot of questions behind all of this.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you, what do you think should be the role of technology and AI in this phase?
So I would definitely say it's the role of AI should be to enhance and help you to bring ideas to life, not to
Exactly.
create ideas. Because I think, I mean, you even have to just look at the way people are writing at the minute when it comes to like LinkedIn or whatever it is. You can tell when something has been written by AI, can't you? And I'd hate for it to get to a point where creativity is lost and that comes across in like design
Yeah.
elements as well. So definitely think that it should be there to enhance and help to translate a vision. And personally, so I'm kind of still diving into all of the AI side of things myself. I've been looking at platforms like, is it Flora? They are really, looks like a really strong upcoming like AI platform for fashion. But how I'm kind of implicating it myself at the minute is, like I said, to help me to translate a vision to my clients. So just to give you an example, I've designed like a gold hardware trim, and when I drew it, it didn't really translate very well to what it was. So I used AI to help me to make an actual 3D render of it. So then the client could see what it would literally look like. That is so helpful for translating and communicating a vision or a element of design to, obviously, like in my case, my client. But as well, I've also used it to help clients to envision how, like I said, that original concept can be brought through into the marketing phase, doing like digital mock-ups of what the campaign could look like, even a digital mock-up of what the final product would look like. Obviously that's coming more into like your clone 3D, which I haven't really ventured much into. But like I said, I think definitely it should be there to help translate that vision. Not take away from the creative phase, just like add to it and enhance it.
Yeah. I just love what you said. I believe, right, that AI should enhance the regular process. That is why we had to first of all talk about the traditional workflow in our previous questions. We had to discuss what is done normally, right? So now we understand this phase. What are the things that could be done better? Just like you mentioned, Flora AI, New Arc also does a really fantastic job with that. You could like, upload your
That's have
sketches
you
and you could see what it looks like. It helps you communicate your design ideas better. That's to your client. Sometimes it also helps you know that, okay, I think I'm actually doing well. I used to have that issue when I was sketching. I'll be like, I'm not sure this design actually makes sense. If I had AI those days, I could have uploaded a random sketch just to really see. It's not finalizing or really giving me the perfect idea, but just enhancing what I've actually put on paper. And then I can see, okay, that makes sense. So
yeah,
probably I'll just remove this or I will include this. From all you've said, the
yeah.
major thing that technology and AI can do in this phase is to enhance communication of design
100%.
ideas, design details, and that's just like the major thing, because at the end of the day, that's what we're doing at this phase. We're translating in concept development. You're really trying to translate whatever has come from research. Research sometimes, like I say, can be very boring, right? There are a lot of details that sometimes, God, these are just words. I want to sketch, I want to color, I want to see life, right? Those are like the kind of communication, because you're not going to bore your clients with whatever kind of research you're not going to do that. That's majorly for you, right? To like also help you design better, right?
Yeah.
That is what AI should do. Help in communication in this particular phase.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think AI and technology can really do to like solve the challenges that are really faced in this phase?
Again, I think it comes down to that visual communication, because as well, I think the way that I've used it is it's helped me to further my ideas. So once I've actually seen like a 3D render or a 3D mock-up of something, I've thought, oh, that sparks another idea, and it's helped me to move the process along faster, if anything. And it has helped to boost the creativity. But again, it comes back to it's enhancing. It's not like generating its own ideas. It's helping me to get it out of my mind and further develop it and make sure that things are streamlined and are correct and that it can actually work. So yeah, that would be my answer for that one.
Okay. Yeah. So have you noticed brands beginning to use digital tools or AI in this phase? And what's your impression so far? And you could also highlight some common tools that you use or other tools that you feel might be useful for this phase.
I'll be honest, I haven't worked with many brands that have, throughout my phase, that have used it. Other than me bringing them the 3D mock-ups and everything. But I think it's not new, is it? But it's at the beginning of like, God knows what it's going to end up being, because it's already amazing, isn't it? But we're still kind of in the early phases of it being implicated with brands and stuff, aren't we? So I think a lot of brands don't actually even realise how they can use it to enhance their workflows and stuff, other than it being like a visual communication thing. So yeah, I'll be honest on that one. I'm yet to work with brands that have used it. I've worked with brands who've used it at the marketing phase to use digital mock-ups, which is kind of a bit of a different conversation. But yeah, as part of the workflow, none of my clients have used it.
Wow. Now I really wanted us to have this conversation is I know that this creative aspects can feel or can really tend to be a lot more soul-ish. So it really has to do with soul. People putting in their heart, an actual person, not a machine in this phase, right?
Yeah.
Putting in their heart, their mind to like really thinking.
Yeah.
I also conducted a research. I posted it on LinkedIn at some point in time where I just like sent out some questionnaires to like hear what fashion brand owners, and also design developers are like really doing in this phase. What are they doing with tech and AI? I could really see the response was actually kind of low, to see that people are not really, really excited about. I'm talking about this particular phase, but we could go into maybe tech parks probably.
Yeah.
But for this particular phase where we're talking about creativity, people are still very, very. I don't know if selfish is a word, but they just like really love it, and they are not like willing to like let go, to just get a phone or get your laptop, type in random prompts, and then say you have a collection developed. The result of the research that I did on my own was like AI or technology is more of like an afterthought. It's actually sad. I don't know if it's sad because I'm actually very also excited about tech and how it enhances the face. But to be honest, the result of my research was that AI is good, but I really do not care. Right? That was actually the result of that. Like I said, I think it's because this aspect is it has to do a lot with the soul. I don't want to go into it sounded very spiritual, but it actually is. It is a person. Nobody wants to hear that a machine designed.
I fully agree with you on that. There's a woman she's called Tara Swift. She's a psychologist, and she says that what makes us, this is again going into something a bit more spiritual, but she talks about what makes us human compared to like other species or even like other planets, obviously, that we have no idea about. But she talks about, is it our creativity that makes us human, and our like how we express ourselves, and everything's like linked to emotions. So I think it would be sad if AI and technology came along and just took away human process and it was just getting done for you. Like, for me, like the reason I'm a designer is because I love it. I love doing the research. I love like the human psychology and getting in the mind of people, and
Yeah.
then it brings sparks an idea, and then you've got this idea, and then you translate it to somebody else who picks up on the vision and gives their interpretation of it, and then it's a final product, and then people buy it, and it's just like it's such an exciting process. So to think that AI would come in and kind of take
Of
that away
that.
from that initial, yeah, it's like it's sad really, isn't it, but then it's exciting in the same breath that it can be used to enhance that process that's already
Mm-hmm.
a really powerful process. So I find it exciting because I can communicate that vision better, which is came from an exciting internal place, do you know what I mean? So that's why it comes back to that conversation we had before of I think it should be used to enhance. It would be very, very sad if it was to take away
Yes.
the power of that creative process, because like you said, creativity comes from the soul, doesn't it? Like it's so
Mm-hmm.
think of like when you meet creative people and like you see how they think and like what their perspective is and what their process is, and you find it exciting. Like it would be sad to see a machine take away part of that. I say machine, think of them as little robots to come in and
Exactly.
like take away that part, do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's why for me it's there to enhance and make
Yes.
the process smoother.
I really love this. I really love the conversation we're having because I completely agree with you. I completely agree because
Yeah.
honestly, I was shocked at the result of the polls and the research I conducted. I was
Yeah.
expecting that everybody's so excited about it, but honestly, it's just like a phase. There was this point in time where everybody was just talking about how you can just like type in a prompt, and the amazing thing about that was that we're making it look like fashion brand owners might not need a team anymore. They might just
Yes,
get a
exactly.
random AI tool, right? Just
Yeah.
type in the prompts that sometimes fashion brand owners might not really have a perfect understanding of making products that would sell. And they might just have beautiful design ideas or probably Instagram reels of other maybe competitors or whatever it is they could see. And then they just feel like AI empowers them to type in a prompt, get a design, and then begin to look for a factory that can get the
Yeah.
designs or begin to look for a tech pack specialist. No, it's
Yeah.
actually getting to the point of a factory that they know that, oh, I need a tech pack. And then they begin to look for a tech pack specialist to create the designs for them. And then you see
Yeah.
that that is not how it actually works. That's not how it
No,
actually works.
and like where's the brand identity in that? Where's the original creativity? Where's the original ideas? Like it just becomes so boring, wouldn't it? Everyone would have the
Mm-hmm.
same designs. Like yeah, it's a scary thought, and as well like it's cutting jobs down for human beings. Do you know what I mean? Like so, I think people don't really understand it. They don't understand how it can enhance the design process or how to use it. There's a bit of probably fear around the cost of it as well. I think people just assume, and it probably is to be fair, or it costs more to get that kind of thing, to get through like 3D design and stuff done. So I feel like it's like a lack of understanding around it, I think, at the minute. Obviously, like I said, it's in its early days, isn't it? And it's already really powerful. So I
Yeah.
think people have a bit of fear around it, but then are also, yeah, just the lack of understanding.
Yes, I think with our conversation right now, we've been able to answer some of the questions. Your opinion, how can technology support rather than replace the creative essence of this phase? And I think that question already answers the question. I don't know. The
Yeah,
point is, we're trying to use technology to support and not replace, right? Support,
yeah.
enhance the human person doing the work, right? AI is not empowering fashion brand owners to be autonomous or just begin to like create brand designs or, just go in now. I have AI, I can do it. No, no, not really.
Yeah,
Not really,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
How do you know the appropriate size chart? How are we going to get to the point of like fitting? How are we going to get to the point of understanding the fabric that we're going to use for this design? Yeah, I really can't do all of that. There's still the soul aspect of everything that we're doing. A human being with human brains who can really understand how everything is going to go.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Exactly.
It's a scary thought to think that like humans would be cut out of that phase, isn't it? It's pretty terrifying to be honest.
Honestly, honestly.
Yeah.
And I just love to see that we're still choosing human first approach to all of this. There are common misconceptions about what AI can and should do in this phase, right? So how should AI be used and embraced in this phase? Before I throw the question to you, I want to mention something. I also work with tech founders and founders who are going into technology AI in this phase and trying to develop tools. And most times they send the tool under development or send it to me to like just do a review, test the tool. And to be honest with you, the major cause of these misconceptions is actually the tech founders. They do not have prior experience in fashion. And when you also check their team, you will see very few fashion product developers. These are just like tech guys who still have that misconception of glamour aspect of fashion design. And then they just mix those two. Their knowledge of tech and fashion is glamour. And they begin to produce or create tools. You check their website and how they are marketing these tools, and they begin to give you lots of promises. And then, as an actual product developer in fashion, look at them like, this is actually not it. This founder reached out to me as this tool we are creating is for fashion marketing, right? So at that point in time, we are seeking perfection. We already have the exact design details. So this is a black button here, taking a picture of this product. I'm obviously going to get a black button back. I'm not going to get a brown button. And then what I noticed with using this tool, I would upload a picture of a particular garment and then I'll get an enhancement. So if we have maybe like a belt, I could get my picture back without a belt. You're trying to help me market my design that is already ready. I can't use this tool, obviously. And I was like, no. And you were about to market this. I wasn't very harsh, like the way I'm sounding now. But I was just pissed off that you're actually thinking that we're really going, no, it can't work. It can't work. So it's also because they do not have an understanding of what this phase actually entails. Just like you're saying, if you are developing a tool for a fashion market, we should have fashion developers in your team too. Do not just be a tech buddy or tech guy, tech person, and then you just see fashion as glamour. So I think I will throw the discussion up to you now. So what are the common misconceptions about what AI can and should do, and how we're just going to be rounding up because I know one way or the other we already talked about this. How should AI be used and embraced in this phase?
Okay, so AI should be used to support and help us to translate vision. It should be able to help us enhance what the design phase. It's not there to replace anybody. It shouldn't be there to remove the humans out of the process. It should literally just be there to support and enhance the design process and help to translate and communicate vision 100%.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we're moving to the closing thought. Yeah. So what advice would you give to emerging designers or brand founders who are navigating this stage for the first time?
I would say before you do anything, before you even move to any kind of concept creation or create a collection, make sure that you are 100% clear. Clarity is everything. Make sure you're 100% clear on who you are, what your values are, what your mission is, what you stand for, who you're speaking to, and make sure that you are dead set on that, because brand identity isn't forgotten. If you are following trends or messing up your design process, whatever that might look like when it comes to it, you're just going to get forgotten about, whereas brand identity really sticks. Like, brand identity, when it comes to being translated into your product and your marketing, is very subjective, but it's something that people like mentally remember you by. It might be an aesthetic, it might be like a little design detail or like a trim, whatever it is. Make sure that you have them fundamentals down. It can develop and evolve over time, but making sure that you just have a very solid understanding of that before you do anything is so important. Otherwise you just end up blending in with everybody else and just having the same product and the same aesthetic. So know who you are. I cannot stress that enough. It's so important. So important.
Yeah, I completely agree. That is like the foundation of everything. We already talked about it, and you said that the heart of this phase revolves around inspiration, research and inspiration, right? Right.
Yeah.
So we can see that what are we actually researching about, right? So there has to be like a proper brand identity to know that this is who we are. this is what we stand for. And because this is who we are and this is what we stand for, we produce this, right?
Yes,
so you're not
exactly,
just like producing garments or creating products. We all love fashion, right? But honestly, to build a sustainable business, it's not just about love. There are a lot of technicalities. I had to learn that firsthand because sometimes you can just be so in love with the creative aspect of it, but creativity should not frustrate you, please. You do not want to be frustrated by just being so creative. There has to be a lot of background to it. There has to be a lot of background to it. So if you could summarize this entire phase, right, what would it, in one sentence, what would it be?
Communicating the vision. The vision is the success of the final product. So making sure that every touch point is aligned to make sure that you nail your product.
Communicating vision, right? Yeah.
Communicating vision is key. That's what I'd say.
Yeah. Perfect. Oh, I love that. Communicating vision is key, right? No, you are very correct, right? Yeah, it just revolves around the heart of this phase, just like you said. Research, inspiration, right? There has to be a background understanding. Design is beautiful, creativity is beautiful, but you do not want to get frustrated by creativity. I am saying this from a lot of experience. I do not know how to like really scream it out loud, but we really need to go to the aspect of research. The part that really stood out for me in the entire conversation is really understanding that creativity cannot thrive without technicality. Everything that you said, the research part is boring. You really have to do that before you can go to the sketch. Do not skip research and go into sketching, creatives. I used to do that. It's actually a bad road. Do not do that. So these are the technicalities.
Yeah, it comes around and bites you in the arse in the long run because the things just end up taking longer and your designs aren't as well informed, and just do your research, just get it done. Once you get into it as well, it's so exciting. I end up in rabbit holes all the time looking at like random stuff that I was like just took me totally off track.
I really loved and enjoyed our conversation today, Lauren. I really loved it. And yeah, honestly, I would want to also have you maybe another time for us to discuss some other aspect of this phase, right? I know that AI and technology is beautiful, right? But I want people who have actually done the work without all this noise of AI, what it can do, speed up. I am all for speed and efficiency, right? But we need to also know what the cost is going to be, right? At what cost are you being so fast? Right. So that is part of the reason why I really wanted you to like really come on board and really talk about your experience. So you were just like hitting the nail on the head and really reiterating some of the things that, I've done in my own research. And I could see that really, really AI and technology is beautiful. But at the end of the day, it is here to enhance the creatives who are working in this phase, not replace. Yeah. And that is what creatives in this phase should also seek. Seek tools that can help your process become better and faster, but do not lose yourself or lose your essence in trying to chase speed or just have subscriptions of AI tools. You don't really need that. This is actually a very soul process.
I think it can be almost thought of as being part of a team, if you know what I mean. Like creativity, like final products are made from a team of creatives coming together, bringing all of their expertise, the talents, and all working together to produce this final outcome and working towards a bigger vision together. And AI should be just part of that workflow and team. It shouldn't be cutting anybody out of that phase. It should just be there to help us all work towards and nail that bigger vision. It should not be cutting anyone out of that process. 100%.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you so much for gracing Fashion Forward.
Thank you for having me as your first guest. I've loved it. I'll definitely want to come back on and talk about another aspect as well. So yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.